Hey guys, it's Glenn from glenscarcollection.com. And while I'm waiting for spring to come and drive cars again, I was just pondering cars that I wish I still own and either don't own anymore or regret selling. So I thought this would make a good video. Here are 3 cars that I regret not owning anymore. Whether you've owned 2 or 3 cars or 50 to 100 cars like me, there are always a couple cars that got away that you wish you still own. Maybe you didn't know the value they would have. Maybe you didn't know how fun they would be now, years later. So here are 3 of my cars that I regret selling. And what I want you to do is at the end of this video, list any cars that you've regretted selling. Remember, guys, to hit that subscribe button. The only way I can keep this channel going and making videos is if you like what you see and you hit that subscribe button. Remember to give this video a thumbs up. And now on with the video. The third car that I actually regret selling was my 2008 BMW E90 sedan. So what's not to like about this car? 4 doors, so it's practical. This was my real estate car for years. People in real estate, all my peers and colleagues drove 5 Series or 7 Series, or the standard issue car in commercial real estate is a Mercedes S-Class. And everybody else said, Glenn's very successful. Why does he drive around in a 3 Series? So unfortunately, there's not that many car enthusiasts in commercial real estate. There's a handful. I know a couple guys, but very few. So nobody knew what an M3 was. They all thought I drove around in a nice blue 3 Series. But it was the car you see on the screen here, 2008 Interlagos Blue, 6-speed manual, V8 M3, 414 horsepower. That was the first year of the E90, E92 M3. They made the sedans from 08 to 2011, the coupes from 08 to 2013, and this is a car that I wish I still had. 414 horsepower, like I said, rear drive, 4-door, 6-speed manual. Now, I bought this car new in 08. I was doing well, and I wound up getting the first allocation of this car at my dealer. And after the launch cars, there were like a launch car or 2 that came in ahead of me. And a launch car in 2008 was basically a car with every single option on it. So when I had gone to the dealer and found out I could be their first allocation, they gave me some launch cars, but the price was like ridiculous. Once I saw what the sticker was with tax, it was like $86,000. I'm like, that's insane. So I spec'd out my car. I think it was about $61,000 or so. I did a video on this car last February in 2017. The guy I sold it to actually had it up for sale. So I had a chance to buy it a second time, and I just bought the M2 in 2016 plus the GLA 45 later in 2016. So it wasn't in the cards to get another car, but boy, do I miss that car, especially now. Now the new M3s are turbocharged motors. They're 6-cylinder motors. And here you had an 8,000 RPM V8 Redline, and you can get a stick, and that car was glorious. But I drove it pretty much every day for 6 years, and I love that car. But I wish I still owned it, especially because I was the original owner. That would be something now in 2018 when you're seeing this video. I've bought that car 10 years earlier and still the original owner. There's probably not too many of those left. But that's a car I definitely regret. They've been going up in value. I got decent money for mine because I think it only had about 40,000 miles on it when I sold it. So it actually depreciated for the next owner, where my depreciation wasn't too bad. If you look over it for 6 years, it was something like $3,000 or $4,000 a year, which was not bad at all. But I wish I still had that car, and I'd love to own another one someday. All right, so the second car that I regret not having anymore, and I said not having anymore, I didn't actually say sold, was my 2003 Laguna Seca Blue 6-speed manual coupe. Now, this was the E46 M3. This was my dream car, and in a lot of ways still is. To me, these cars come in one color, and that's Laguna Seca Blue with the stick shift. And mine was a sunroof delete car, so that's very rare. The car you see in the video here, it was actually owned by a friend of mine, just coincidence. I used to film his car, and I found out an old friend of mine owned it. And I actually tried to buy this car back, but I couldn't, with being unemployed. It just recently sold. Otherwise, I would have bought it if I was working. But, what's not to like about this car? Straight 6, 8,000 RPM Redline. You can get in a 6-speed manual, rear drive coupe. Very nimble car. I used to take mine to the autocross all the time. 333 horsepower. And I see these Laguna Seca Blue coupes coming up for sale, and obviously they keep going up and up, just like all E46 M3s. So Laguna Seca Blue may be a love it or hate it color, but it seems to do pretty well in the used car market. But you know, mine was a sunroof delete. I've never seen another sunroof delete. I've seen sunroof deletes that were SMGs, not sunroof deletes that were 6-speed manual. So this car, though I technically never sold it because it was stolen, is definitely my second biggest regret in the car world. All right, now number one, if you watch all my videos, you may know my number one regret because I've talked about that before. Not that I don't talk about my M3 being stolen every 5 seconds. But the one car that I wish I still had was my 2007 Lotus Exige S. Now, when I first started my YouTube channel, the blue car, the Lotus in the intro, was my actual Exige S. I had sold that car a couple years ago, and I really regret selling it now. I wanted a Lotus forever. I got it. The car mechanically was fine, but every little thing always went wrong with that car. And, you know, it wasn't a usable car. I always tell people that's not a second car, that's like a fifth car, you know, and I don't know how many cars I had at the time, probably like 4 or 5. But every little thing went wrong with that car, and I just got frustrated, and somebody made me an offer. When I went to sell actually when I wanted to buy the 1M, I was going to sell one of my cars, and pretty much that car had gone way up in value for the time that I owned it. People were, you know, they stopped making them, and people realized how great they were, and how hard to find a good one that didn't have a salvage title, because basically there's two, not counting the doors and the roof and that kind of stuff, there's basically 2 body panels, the front clam and the second clam. And they could be $20,000, $30,000 to replace. So typically if those get damaged, even in a minor accident, the car gets a salvage title, gets totaled out, and now you're stuck with a salvage. Where my car was a super clean car. I actually found it online. I was looking through like the Lotus forums, and I found it online, and it was like an old listing, like it was for sale for a year, but the guy was working overseas, so he was never around, never checked his, I guess his forum posts or whatever, or his messages, so I wound up getting it, and now I really regret it. So I reviewed a Lotus Exige, my friend VJ's car, last summer, I believe it was, or in the fall, maybe around Labor Day or so, and when I drove that car, I'll show you some clips from that review here. And that car, the whole time I was driving, I was shaking my head like this because I'd forgotten how good that car was. And, you know, minor quibbles aside and compromises and all those other things, you know, for a Sunday morning drive with 1 gallon of gas left, that's the car I would take out. So I really regret that. This car, my car, actually came up for sale. I think it was last year. Unfortunately, I wasn't in a position to buy it back, and it's all the way across the country now. But, you know, I sold it for a really nice profit, and that's kind of why I did it, because I was frustrated with the car itself. And somebody made me a crazy offer I couldn't refuse, and that essentially gave me a free 1M. And now the car's for sale for more, because it's become more collectible the last 4 years or 3 years or so. And you know, the seller's selling it for good profit from what I got. So if I knew, you know, how collectible that car would have became, I think I would have held on to it, especially in laser blue. They only made very low amount in that color. Now it's an 07, so the S stands for supercharged. The Exige actually came out in 06. In 07s, they were supercharged, and the horsepower went from like 190 to 220. In 08, they're called the 240s, 240 horsepower. And then I believe in 09, they went to 260, and for the couple years that they were gone for there. So the 260s, of course, are the rarest, but worth the most money. So I think 07 is kind of the sweet spot. From 07 to 09, I think the difference with the 240 and 260 is an ECU tune, essentially. So 07, you get 95% of it without paying the price of a 260. But that is the number one car that I wish I still had in my garage. And anytime I see one, and it's very rare to even see a supercharged Lotus Exige, you see plenty of Elises, different price points certainly. And every time I see that Exige, I go, oh, man, I shouldn't have sold mine. You can see me shaking my head in that video that I wish I never sold it. So those are the 3 cars I regret, and the whole point of this channel is for us to share, you know, car people to share their stories. So why don't you tell me in the comments below what car you regret selling? It could be 1, it could be 10. So let me know. I'd love to read each and every one of your comments. So thanks again for watching, guys. Hope you like this type of video. If you do, give it a thumbs up so I'll make more of them. Remember to hit that subscribe button. The only way I can keep making videos is if my channel grows. And share this video with your friends so our channel can grow. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time. Take care.